Black billionaire spots his childhood friend working as a waitress. Next day, he changed her life. The rusty chain-link fence never stopped them. Not once in all their years growing up in Westwood Heights, a neighborhood where dreams went to die and hope was a luxury few could afford. 17-year-old Malik Johnson hoisted himself up, his athletic frame making the climb look effortless as he extended his hand down to Ava Brooks. "Come on, slowpoke," he teased, his smile flashing in the moonlight. "Or are you getting cold feet?" Ava grabbed his hand, her own smile a mixture of exhilaration and nervousness. "In your dreams, Johnson." She scrambled up beside him, her worn sneakers finding purchase on the metal links. The two friends balanced on top of the fence, overlooking their high school's football field, a place that represented everything they wanted to escape. They'd been inseparable since third grade, when Malik defended Ava from neighborhood bullies who mocked her second-hand clothes. From that day forward, they were a unit, navigating the harsh realities of their environment together. Where Malik was charismatic and bold, Ava was thoughtful and determined. Where he dreamed big, she planned meticulously. Together, they believed they were unstoppable. "You sure this is a good idea?" Ava whispered as they jumped down onto school property. Their senior year was nearly complete, and in just 2 weeks, they'd be graduates. Ava clutched her scholarship acceptance letter in her jacket pocket like a talisman, her ticket out, her future secured through 4 years of perfect grades and endless late nights studying. Malik nudged her playfully. "It's tradition. Every senior class pulls a prank. Besides, we're not doing anything serious, just rearranging some stuff in the gym and spray painting class of '09 rules on the bleachers. And borrowing the video equipment to film it all," Ava added, raising an eyebrow. "Details, details." Malik waved dismissively as they crept across the shadowy field. "I promise this time next year, we'll be laughing about this in our dorm rooms. You at Emerson with your journalism scholarship, me at State on my basketball ride." The moon slipped behind clouds as they approached the gymnasium's back entrance. Malik produced a key. "Borrowed from Coach Williams' office," he explained with a mischievous grin, and they slipped inside. The familiar smell of floor wax and sweat greeted them, the large space eerily quiet without the usual squeak of sneakers and shouts of teenagers. "Hurry up," Ava urged, her voice echoing slightly in the empty gym. "Let's get the equipment, and do this before someone sees us." They made their way to the AV room, where Malik skillfully picked the lock, a talent he developed out of necessity growing up in a house where his alcoholic father often locked him out. Inside, they found treasures, high-definition cameras, sound equipment, and editing software that their underfunded school had recently acquired through a grant. "This is perfect," Malik whispered, his eyes gleaming as he examined an expensive camera. "We can document the whole thing. It'll be legendary." Ava hesitated, her fingers brushing against her acceptance letter again. "We're just borrowing it, right? We'll return everything before morning?" "Of course," Malik assured her, already loading equipment into their backpacks. "Trust me." Those 2 words had been their mantra for years. Through Malik's father's violent episodes, through Ava's mother's battle with addiction, through every hardship, those words cemented their bond. "Trust me." And she always had. An hour later, the prank had escalated beyond their original plan. What started as harmless rearranging had turned into spray-painted walls, gymnasium equipment stacked in bizarre sculptures, and toilet paper streaming from the rafters. Malik, caught up in the excitement, had convinced other seniors to join them, and now a dozen teenagers were running wild through the school. "This is getting out of hand," Ava said, grabbing Malik's arm as he prepared to spray paint the principal's name on a basketball. "We've got thousands of dollars of equipment with us, and people are vandalizing school property. This isn't funny anymore, it's destruction." Malik's eyes were bright with adrenaline. "Relax, Ava. Nobody's going to know it was us. Besides, these rich suburban schools deal with pranks 10 times worse every year. We're not in the suburbs," she reminded him. "Our school can barely afford textbooks from this decade." Before Malik could respond, harsh lights flooded the gymnasium, momentarily blinding them. A security guard's voice boomed through the space. "Nobody move! Police are on their way!" Chaos erupted. Seniors scattered in all directions, abandoning their spray cans and toilet paper rolls. Ava froze, clutching her backpack containing a camera worth more than her mother made in 3 months. Beside her, Malik went pale. "I can't get caught," he whispered, panic replacing his earlier bravado. "Coach said one more incident and my scholarship is gone. My whole future." The fear in his eyes was something Ava had seen before, the night his father had put him in the hospital, the day his mother walked out. It was raw, primal terror of a life without escape. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter both their lives forever. "Go," she whispered, taking the spray paint can from his hand. "Back door. Now." "What?" "No, I can't leave you." "Trust me." She echoed their words back to him, giving him a gentle push. "I'll be fine." Their eyes locked for a long moment, 17 years of friendship, dreams, and promises passing between them. Then Malik turned and ran, disappearing through the back exit seconds before the security guard rounded the corner. When the police arrived, they found Ava alone in the gym, surrounded by evidence of vandalism, expensive equipment in her bag. She offered no resistance, no explanation beyond. "It was my idea." 3 days later, Ava sat in the principal's office, staring at the revoked scholarship letter on the desk between them. Her mother sobbed quietly beside her, the smell of alcohol barely disguised by cheap perfume. "I'm disappointed, Ava," Principal Ramirez said, genuine regret in her voice. "You had such promise. Emerson has withdrawn their offer, and you'll have community service hours to complete. The school board is still deciding whether to press charges for the stolen equipment." Ava nodded numbly, her future crumbling around her. She hadn't seen or heard from Malik since that night. His absence was a physical ache, a phantom limb she couldn't stop reaching for. As she left the office, she spotted him at the end of the hallway, surrounded by basketball teammates. Their eyes met across the distance. For a moment, she thought he might come to her, might confess, might make it right. Instead, he looked away, turning back to his friends, his scholarship, his future. That night, as Ava sat on the fire escape outside her bedroom window, their favorite meeting spot for late-night conversations, she waited for him to appear with explanations, apologies, solutions. The hours ticked by, the neighborhood grew quiet, but Malik never came. By morning, she understood what her sacrifice had truly cost, not just her scholarship and clean record, but the one friendship she had believed would last forever. As dawn broke over the neighborhood, Ava made a promise to herself that she would rebuild her life, piece by shattered piece, without him. What she didn't know then was that their paths would cross again, under circumstances either of them could have imagined, when one had everything, and the other had lost it all. 15 years could change a neighborhood, but some places remained frozen in time. As Malik Johnson's custom Bentley glided through the once familiar streets of Westwood Heights, he noted the contradictions. New upscale coffee shops next to the same dilapidated apartment buildings he'd grown up in. Gentrification was creeping in, but hadn't erased the soul of the place. Not yet. "We can circle back to the Thompson Street location tomorrow, Mr. Johnson," his assistant Rachel said, not looking up from her tablet. "The property values are increasing rapidly in this area, making it ideal for your foundation's tech incubator center." Malik nodded absently, his attention caught by a flickering neon sign. "Sonny's 24/7 Diner." The establishment looked like it had been there since the beginning of time, its windows cloudy with age, paint peeling from the door frame. "Stop the car," he said suddenly. Rachel looked up, confused. "Sir? I need to eat." He checked his platinum watch, 2:17 a.m. The jet lag from his flight back from Tokyo was hitting him hard. "And I want something real. Not hotel food." Minutes later, Malik sat alone in a cornered booth of the nearly empty diner, having sent his security detail and assistant to wait in the car. He needed space to think. At 32, Malik Johnson had accomplished more than most people did in a lifetime. His tech company, InnovateX, had revolutionized virtual reality interfaces, earning him billions and a spot on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list years ago. Now, he was returning to his roots, planning to invest in the community that raised him, a fact the local newspapers had trumpeted for weeks. The bell above the door jingled as a couple of drunk college students stumbled in, laughing too loudly. Malik pulled the brim of his cap lower, not wanting to be recognized. He was studying the laminated menu when a tired voice spoke. "Coffee to start?" Something in that voice made his heart stop. Slowly, he lowered the menu. She was thinner now, her once vibrant face lined with exhaustion. The Ava he remembered had worn her hair in dozens of intricate braids. This woman's hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her blue uniform hung loosely on her frame, the name tag reading, Ava B. But her eyes, those deep brown eyes that had once looked at him with unwavering trust, were unmistakable. "Ava," he whispered, the name escaping before he could stop it. She froze, coffee pot suspended midair. For one breathless moment, recognition, shock, and something else, something that made his stomach twist, flashed across her face. Then her expression hardened into a mask of professional indifference. "What can I get you?" she asked, voice flat, as if they were strangers. As if he hadn't been her best friend for half their lives. "The special, I guess," he managed, unable to look away from her face. "Ava, it's me, Malik. I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are." She poured his coffee with mechanical precision. "Your face is on billboards all over the city." The college students called out for service, and she turned away without another word. Malik watched as she moved between tables, her movements efficient but weighted, like someone who had been carrying a heavy load for too long. When she returned with his food, he tried again. "How have you been? It's been so long. Will there be anything else?" She cut him off, her gaze fixed somewhere over his shoulder. "Talk to me, Ava. Please." Finally, she looked directly at him, and the coldness in her eyes made him flinch. "Enjoy your meal, Mr. Johnson." She emphasized his name with subtle bitterness. "Some of us have to work for a living." Throughout his meal, which he barely tasted, Malik watched her. He saw how she winced when bending to clean a table, noticed the way she counted her tips with the careful attention of someone for whom every dollar mattered. This was not the future they had planned together all those years ago. As the night progressed, he pieced together fragments of her life from overheard conversations. She was taking online classes. She had a second job. She hadn't had a day off in 3 weeks. When the time came to pay, Malik left a $1,000 tip, tucking it under his coffee cup where only she would find it. He waited in his car across the street, watching through the diner's windows as she discovered it. He expected surprise, perhaps even joy. Instead, he watched as she stared at the money for a long moment before crumpling it in her fist. She walked purposefully to the door and scanned the nearly empty street. When she spotted his car, she marched across the road, yanked open his door, and threw the wadded bills in his face. "I don't want your charity," she hissed, her composure finally cracking. "I don't want anything from you." "It's not charity," he protested. "I just wanted to help." 15 years too late. She cut him off. "Where were you when I lost my scholarship? When I had to drop out of community college because I couldn't afford the bus fare? When my mother died and I couldn't even pay for a decent funeral?" Each question landed like a physical blow. Malik had no answers. "I have to get back to work," she said, her voice suddenly exhausted. "Don't come back here, Malik. We're not kids anymore, and we're not friends." As she walked away, Malik felt something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine, gut-wrenching regret. He had built an empire, changed the world with his innovations, but he had failed the one person who had sacrificed everything for him. That night, lying in his penthouse suite with its panoramic view of the city, sleep eluded him. Ava's face, older, harder, betrayed, haunted him. For the first time, he confronted an uncomfortable truth. His success was built on her sacrifice, a debt he had never acknowledged, let alone repaid. By dawn, Malik Johnson had made a decision. He couldn't change the past, but perhaps he could reshape the future, for both of them. Buy it. All of it. Rachel blinked at her boss across the conference table. The entire block? Malik nodded, his eyes fixed on the satellite image displayed on the wall screen. The red outline encompassed not just the abandoned warehouse they'd been considering for the tech incubator, but the surrounding buildings as well, including Sonny's diner. Is there a problem? He asked, noticing his executive team exchanging glances. No problem, his CFO Marcus replied carefully. But it's significantly more than the initial budget we discussed. This would require. I'm aware of what it requires, Malik cut in. Make it happen. Today. The team dispersed with new urgency, leaving only Rachel behind. She'd been with him since the early days of InnovateX, one of the few people who could read beyond his business facade. This is about her, isn't it? She asked quietly. The waitress from last night. Malik's jaw tightened. This is about maximum community impact. The larger the footprint, the more we can accomplish. Rachel didn't push further, but her knowing look spoke volumes. As she reached the door, she paused. By the way, that waitress? I ran a background check as you requested. Ava Brooks, 32. Associate's degree in Business Administration from Community College, completed over 7 years while working multiple jobs. No criminal record except a juvenile offense for vandalism and theft. She tapped her tablet. Sending you the complete file now. When the door closed behind Rachel, Malik opened Ava's file. The mugshot hit him first, 17-year-old Ava, defiant even as tears streaked her face. The incident report followed, detailing the aftermath of that fateful night: community service, probation, rescinded scholarship. He scrolled through the years that followed, a series of odd jobs, eviction notices, medical bills, her mother's death certificate. The life she'd lived while he'd been climbing to the top. 3 days later, Malik stood before a crowd of reporters outside the newly acquired block of buildings in Westwood Heights. Camera flashes punctuated his practice speech about revitalization and community opportunity. While locals gathered behind barricades, their expressions a mix of hope and skepticism. InnovateX Foundation is proud to announce the creation of the Westwood Tech Hub, he concluded. A center for innovation, education, and opportunity right here in the neighborhood where I grew up. Questions flew, but Malik's attention was caught by a figure at the edge of the crowd. Ava, still in her diner uniform, watched with folded arms. When their eyes met, she turned and walked away. Later that evening, Malik convened a private meeting with his foundation's hiring team. I want locals prioritized for every position, he instructed. From janitorial staff to technical roles. If they need training, we provide it. What about current businesses in the purchased properties? Asked the HR director. They stay if they want to, Malik replied. Renovated spaces, reduced rent, integration into the hub ecosystem. He slid a folder across the table. I've prepared a special initiative I want implemented. Scholarship and mentorship program for promising local candidates. The first candidates are already identified. The folder contained carefully crafted job descriptions, positions that would start at entry level but include paid education and clear paths to advancement. At the bottom of the stack was a janitorial position with very specific requirements that would perfectly match Ava's resume. 2 weeks later, Rachel placed a single paper on Malik's desk. It was a job application for the janitorial position, filled out in neat, familiar handwriting. The name at the top. Ava Brooks. She applied through the normal channels, Rachel said. As you predicted. Malik nodded, something tightening in his chest. Process it like any other application. Make sure she gets the job, but no special treatment that would raise suspicion. And your personal involvement? There won't be any, he replied firmly. I'll be focusing on the Tokyo expansion. All communication about the Westwood project comes through you. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You're avoiding her. I'm giving her what she needs without complicating it with my presence, he corrected. Status reports weekly. I want to know everything. Her performance, her needs, opportunities for advancement. After Rachel left, Malik stood at his office window, gazing at the city skyline as dusk painted it in shades of gold and purple. The Westwood hub was taking shape faster than anyone had anticipated. Already, construction crews were transforming the old buildings, and the first wave of staff had been hired. He thought about Ava filling out that application, perhaps at the same diner where she'd thrown his money back in his face. He wondered if she'd felt any hope as she wrote her name, hope he was determined to fulfill, even if she never knew he was behind it. His phone buzzed with an incoming text from Rachel. Application processed. Start date Monday. Malik pocketed his phone and turned back to his desk, pulling up the Westwood Hub plans. He began adding notes about new programs, resources, and opportunities that would be made available to employees. His redemption blueprint was just beginning to unfold. The hallways gleamed under Ava's mop. 3 months into her job at the Westwood Tech Hub, she still marveled at the transformation of the old warehouse district. Where there had once been crumbling buildings and broken windows, now stood sleek glass and steel structures, humming with activity and possibility. Possibility that somehow kept finding its way to her doorstep. Excuse me, Ms. Brooks? Ava looked up to see Monica Chin, the hub's education director, approaching with her perpetual clipboard and warm smile. I was wondering if you'd considered the program we discussed last week. The deadline for applications is tomorrow. Ava wrung out her mop, buying time to compose her answer. I'm not sure I'd qualify for a full business certificate course. I only have an associate's degree, and it was years ago. Actually, Monica said, consulting her clipboard, your work experience compensates for the academic requirements. And the foundation covers all tuition and materials. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. Between us, I've seen the applicant pool. You're more qualified than most. As Monica walked away, Ava leaned against her mop handle, a familiar discomfort settling in her chest. This wasn't the first opportunity that had materialized since she started working here. First, there'd been the shift adjustment that perfectly accommodated her remaining hours at the diner. Then the surprising salary, nearly double what janitorial positions typically paid in the area. Then came invitations to training sessions, team meetings where her opinions were not just welcomed but actively sought. Just last week, her ancient apartment building had been purchased by an anonymous investor, who immediately began renovations and froze rent increases for current tenants. The timing was too convenient to be coincidence. During her lunch break, Ava sat alone in the staff cafeteria, picking at a salad while scrolling through job listings on her phone. Maybe it was time to look elsewhere, somewhere without these strange coincidences that increasingly felt like unseen hands guiding her life. Mind if I join you? Ava looked up to see James Washington, the hub's head of technical development. Before she could respond, he'd already set down his tray and taken a seat. I hear you're considering the business certificate, he said, unwrapping his sandwich. Smart move. We need more people who understand both the operational and technical sides of things. I haven't decided yet, Ava replied cautiously. James nodded toward her phone. Job hunting? Heat rushed to her face. Just keeping my options open. He studied her for a moment. You know, when I was hired, I was told to keep an eye out for employees with potential for advancement. Your name comes up a lot in management meetings. Why? The question burst from her before she could contain it. I'm a janitor. I do my job well, but there's nothing special about mopping floors. James smiled. Yet somehow you've reorganized the cleaning schedules to maximize efficiency, proposed a sustainability initiative for cleaning supplies that's saving us thousands, and solved a recurring issue with the security system that even our tech team missed. I just noticed things that could be improved, she said uncomfortably. That's exactly what we're looking for. He pushed a business card across the table. My door's always open if you want to discuss your future here. That evening, as Ava walked home through the gentrifying neighborhood, a memory surfaced unbidden. Malik and her sitting on her fire escape at 16, planning their futures under a rare display of stars visible through the city smog. When I make it big, he'd said, eyes reflecting the pinpricks of light above. I'm taking you with me. First thing I'll do is set you up right. I don't need your charity. She'd laughed, bumping his shoulder with hers. His expression had turned serious then. It's not charity when it's family, Ava. And you're the only real family I've got. The memory cut deep. He'd broken that promise, along with everything else between them. Inside her apartment, now with reliable heat and fixed plumbing thanks to the mysterious new landlord, Ava pulled out a shoebox from under her bed. Inside lay newspaper clippings charting Malik Johnson's meteoric rise, college graduation, first company launch, billionaire status by 27. She'd collected them over the years, a ritual of self-torture she couldn't seem to abandon. The most recent edition was a press release about the Westwood Tech Hub, featuring a photo of Malik in an impeccable suit, standing before the very building where she now worked. She hadn't seen him in person since that night at the diner, though rumors circulated that he occasionally visited the facility. Ava stared at his face, success written in every confident line. Her fingers traced the outline of the building in the photograph, pieces clicking into place. The job that seemed tailor-made for her qualifications. The professional development opportunities that kept appearing. The apartment renovations. Son of a bitch, she whispered, realization dawning like a cold sunrise. The next morning, Ava marched into the HR department, application for the business certificate clutched in her hand. The director looked up in surprise at her determined expression. Ms. Brooks? How can I help you? I want to know who's behind my employment file, Ava said, placing the application on the desk. And don't tell me it's standard procedure to fast-track a janitor for educational opportunities. The director's discomfort was visible. Our advancement policies are instituted by the Foundation Board. I'm afraid I don't have specific. Is Malik Johnson personally involved in my employment? Ava interrupted. A telling silence followed. I see, Ava said quietly, pushing the application forward. Process this. I'm taking the course. And every opportunity after that. Her voice hardened. But not because he wants me to. Because I've earned it. And when I've climbed high enough, we're going to have a very long overdue conversation. She walked out with her head high, leaving the bewildered HR director behind. The buried resentment she'd carried for 15 years had transformed into something new, determination. If Malik Johnson thought he could ease his conscience by secretly orchestrating her life, he was about to learn how much she'd changed from the girl who once took the fall for him. The invitation arrived on embossed paper, delivered by courier to Ava's newly renovated apartment. The Westwood Tech Hub Foundation cordially invites you to an exclusive recognition event honoring unsung community heroes. 6 months had passed since Ava's confrontation in HR. 6 months of accelerated advancement, as she completed her business certificate with top marks and transitioned from janitorial staff to operations assistant. 6 months of carefully watching, waiting, and building her case against Malik Johnson's invisible hand in her life. She'd never seen him at the hub, though evidence of his influence was everywhere. And now this, an invitation to an event at his private penthouse downtown. The final confirmation she needed. The night of the event, Ava stood before her mirror, barely recognizing herself. The woman who stared back wore a sleek black dress that accentuated her lean frame, her hair swept into an elegant updo. A far cry from either the exhausted waitress or the determined janitor of recent memory. Going to battle, she whispered to her reflection. But on my terms this time. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the city's tallest building, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing a breathtaking panorama of lights. About 30 guests mingled in the vast space, all employees from the hub's various departments, all from backgrounds similar to Ava's. People who had been given second chances, new opportunities. Malik was nowhere to be seen. Ms. Brooks, welcome. Rachel Chin, Malik's executive assistant whom Ava had only seen from a distance, approached with practiced grace. Please, enjoy the evening. There's a special exhibition I think might interest you in the East Wing. Curious despite herself, Ava followed the direction indicated. The East Wing proved to be a smaller, more intimate space with subdued lighting. The walls were lined with black and white photographs, Images of Westwood Heights through the decades. Children playing in fire hydrant spray. Elderly neighbors sitting on stoops. Community gardens blooming between concrete. At the center of the display was a glass case containing what appeared to be personal memorabilia. Ava moved closer, then froze. Inside was a faded photograph of two teenagers sitting on a fire escape, laughing into the camera. Herself and Malik at 16. Beside it lay a worn acceptance letter to Emerson College, her scholarship, the one she'd lost. And a newspaper clipping about the high school vandalism incident, with her name highlighted in the article. He kept it all, a quiet voice said behind her. Ava whirled to find Malik standing in the doorway, no longer the polished billionaire from magazine covers but something closer to the boy she'd once known. His eyes held a wariness, a vulnerability she hadn't seen since that night in the gymnasium 15 years ago. "What is this?" she demanded, gesturing at the display. "Some kind of shrine to your guilty conscience?" "It's a reminder," he answered, stepping into the room but keeping his distance. "Of where I came from. Of what I owe. Of who made it possible." "I didn't make anything possible," she said bitterly. "I just took the fall while you walked away." "Yes," he admitted, the simple acknowledgement stunning her momentarily. "I did. I was a coward. I let you sacrifice everything for me, and then I was too ashamed to face what I'd done." Ava felt tears threatening but forced them back. "So all of this, the job, the opportunities, the apartment, it's just you paying your debt? Clearing your conscience?" "At first, maybe," Malik conceded. "But then I saw what you did with every opportunity. How you excelled, how you helped others, how you built something lasting. You didn't need my help, Ava. You just needed a fair chance, the one I took from you." "A fair chance would have been coming forward that night," she said, her voice rising. "A fair chance would have been telling the truth when it mattered, not playing God with my life 15 years later when you're rich enough to buy my whole building." Her words echoed in the quiet space. A handful of guests peered curiously through the doorway before quickly retreating. "You're right," Malik said softly. "I can't fix the past. I can't give you back those years. And I'm not asking for forgiveness." "What are you asking for?" He moved to the display case, opening it to remove the old photograph of them. "I'm asking you to take what's rightfully yours. Not as charity. Not as penance. But because you earned it 1,000 times over." "What's that supposed to mean?" "The Westwood Hub isn't just my project," he explained. "It's structured as a community trust. I've been searching for someone to lead it, someone who understands both the neighborhood's needs and the business side. Someone with integrity, vision, and a personal stake in its success." Understanding dawned. "You want me to run your foundation? After everything?" "Not my foundation. Yours." He met her gaze directly. "Every opportunity I've created for you was a test I knew you'd pass. Every role was preparation for this one. The board has already approved the appointment, contingent on your acceptance." Ava laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "So this is still you pulling the strings? Still you deciding my life's direction?" "No," Malik shook his head. "This is me finally doing what I should have done 15 years ago, standing up and telling the truth." He took a deep breath. "I built my success on your sacrifice. Everything I have, everything I've achieved, began the moment you protected me. I've lived with that knowledge every day." The raw emotion in his voice cracked something inside her, the hardened shell of resentment she'd built over years of struggle. "I was so angry for so long," she whispered. "You had every right to be." "I still do," she said, squaring her shoulders. "And I need you to know something, Malik. If I take this position, and that's still an if, I won't be doing it for you. I'll be doing it for the community, for the people who never got the chances we did." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As they stood in silence, surrounded by images of their shared past, Ava felt the weight of 15 years shifting, not disappearing, but transforming into something she could finally set down. 3 weeks passed before Ava gave Malik her answer. 3 weeks of soul-searching, of pros and cons lists, of late-night walks through Westwood Heights observing the changes already taking root. The abandoned lot where they used to play basketball now housed a community garden. The corner where drug deals once transpired openly now featured a cafe run by former inmates learning culinary skills. Change was possible. She'd seen it firsthand. On a rain-soaked Monday morning, she walked into Rachel's office without an appointment. "I'll take the position," she said simply. "With conditions." 2 months later, the grand opening of the fully operational Westwood Tech Hub arrived. Media outlets from across the country gathered to document the innovative community-based approach to urban renewal. Corporate sponsors, tech industry leaders, and local officials filled the renovated warehouse space, now a gleaming center of possibility. Backstage, Ava reviewed her notes one final time, her new title still feeling foreign on the business cards in her pocket. Executive Director, Westwood Community Trust. 5 minutes, Ms. Brooks, an assistant informed her. Malik appeared beside her, impeccable in a tailored suit but with shadows under his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. "Ready?" "Born ready," she replied, an echo of their childhood bravado that surprised them both. He hesitated. "Ava, about what I'm going to say out there." "I've read the speech, Malik. It's fine." "No." He shook his head. "I've made changes. Important ones. I just want you to know that every word is true." Before she could respond, they were being ushered toward the stage. The bright lights momentarily blinded her as applause filled the vast space. She took her position slightly behind Malik as he approached the microphone. "Welcome to the beginning of something extraordinary," he began, his charismatic public persona sliding into place. He outlined the hub's ambitious goals: technology education for underserved communities, startup incubation focusing on local entrepreneurs, affordable housing initiatives. Then his tone shifted. "But before we celebrate this achievement, I need to correct a story, my story." His voice became more intimate, less practiced. "The media has painted me as a self-made success, rising from difficult circumstances through sheer determination and intelligence." The audience leaned forward, sensing the unexpected turn. "The truth is more complicated," Malik continued. "My success was built on a foundation laid by someone else's sacrifice." He turned toward Ava, who stood frozen in surprise. 15 years ago, Ava Brooks saved my future by sacrificing her own. When we were caught in a teenage prank gone wrong, she took the blame entirely on herself, knowing I would lose my scholarship, my only way out of poverty. Because of her, I went to college. Because of her, I had opportunities she was denied. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras swiveled toward Ava. "I tell you this not to clear my conscience, but because true leadership requires honesty. And because the real hero of Westwood Heights isn't standing behind me by accident." Malik gestured for her to join him at the podium. "The Westwood Tech Hub will be renamed the Ava Brooks Community Innovation Center, and under her leadership as executive director, it will fulfill the promise of second chances that she herself embodies." The crowd erupted in applause as Ava, stunned, stepped forward. This hadn't been in the script. The renaming hadn't been discussed. For a moment, she considered refusing, stepping back, maintaining the professional distance she'd insisted upon. Instead, she took the microphone. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "But this center isn't about me, or even about Malik Johnson. It's about every person in Westwood Heights who deserves the chance to build their own future." She spoke from the heart about community resilience, about turning pain into purpose, about the power of opportunity matched with preparation. As she concluded, she found herself looking directly at Malik. "Second chances aren't just about forgiveness," she said. "They're about building something new from the lessons of the past. That's what we're doing here today." The standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. Later, as the last guests departed, Ava found Malik standing alone in what would soon be the center's main classroom. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did," he replied simply. "It was the truth. The naming thing was excessive." A hint of his old smile appeared. Probably. But the board approved it unanimously. She shook her head, exasperated but unable to summon real anger. So what happens now? That depends. He turned to face her fully. I'll be stepping back from direct involvement, as we agreed. The center is yours to lead. But I hope... What? She prompted when he trailed off. I hope that someday, we might find a way to be friends again. Not what we were, I know that's gone. But something new. Something honest. Ava considered his words. The anger that had fueled her for 15 years had transformed, not vanished. The hurt remained, a scar rather than an open wound. But alongside it grew something unexpected, respect for the man he'd become, for the truth he'd finally spoken. I can't promise that, she said carefully. But I can promise to try. As they walked together through the center that would bear her name, Ava realized that their bond had indeed transformed into something neither of them could have imagined as teenagers on that fire escape dreaming of the future. Not the blind trust of childhood, but something more nuanced, a relationship built on recognition of both flaws and strengths, on accountability and possibility. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a beginning. And for the first time in 15 years, Ava Brooks looked toward her future with nothing holding her back, not poverty, not resentment, not the shadow of what might have been. What lay ahead was entirely her own to build.